Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Telugu Desam Party and our leader, Sri Nara Chandrababu Naidu Garu, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about this very important and very sensitive topic of price rise. It is the government's responsibility to enable the aspirations of more than 1.3 billion people who all dream of only one thing, whether they're poor or they're middle class or they're rich. Everyone dreams of upward mobility. They want to be better off in life than their parents were, and they want their children to be better off than they were. So this is the aspirations that the government needs to fulfill. However, the Rangarajan report, which was just released, has shown that nearly 1/3 of our population is still below the poverty line. So this section of society cannot be ignored. And for this, we need all the social welfare schemes that will help this group of people. However, if we have to move people out of poverty, it can only be done by creating a strong economy, a high-growth economy that allows them to pull themselves out of poverty. The policies over the last 10 years has only kept people in poverty and has not helped people to get out of poverty. As had been mentioned earlier by the Honourable Member from Himachal Pradesh, when the NDA-1 government first took over, the GDP growth rate was only 4.3%. And by the time they demitted office, they had raised it to 8.3%. In the 10 years of UPA-1 and UPA-2, they've gone from 8.3% back down to less than 5%. For the second time, NDA has come into power with the economy growing at less than 5%. To eradicate poverty, our country needs to be growing at least 7 to 9%. If we don't achieve a 7 to 9% growth rate, we will not be eradicating poverty. If we have to be growing on a sustainable basis. In my maiden speech, I had talked about China. I had talked about how we cannot follow all the policies of the Chinese government, but there are definitely some things to learn from them. China has been growing at 9 to 10% growth rate for more than 20 years. And during this period, it has moved more than 300 million people, 30 crore people, out of poverty by bringing them into the organized sector, both in manufacturing and service sector, away from the agriculture sector. During this period, they've shifted that many people, and they've also been able to do this by investing in infrastructure and by developing the capability of its people through education and skill development. Though it looked like India was on the same path, the last 5 years have been extremely disappointing. UPA-2, for the sake of electoral gains, has focused only on short-term relief measures and has totally ignored the medium and long-term performance of our economy, and therefore is only looking at keeping people in poverty with assistance rather than bringing people out of poverty through economic growth and job creation. There have been some talks about price rise in the railways. I just want to point out a few things. On the 6th of February 2014, the railways proposed to increase prices by 10% and freight by 5%. With fuel adjustments, it worked out to 14% increase in passenger fares and 6% increase in the freight fares. On 11th February 2014, Dr. Manmohan Singh approved this, and it was decided to implement by first week of May 2014. All this government has done is to implement the decisions taken by the previous government in this regard. On the issue of onions and potatoes, they are two of the most important commodities in any Indian kitchen. Therefore, it's very important to keep them under control. The NDA-1 had kept the onions and potatoes under the Essential Commodities Act from 1999 to 2004. The UPA-1, for whatever reason, has removed these from the Essential Commodities Act. Throughout the last 10 years, the Telugu Desam Party, the BJP, the left, and even UPA allies have been demanding that they be brought back under the Essential Commodities Act, but nothing was done. The result, onions had gone up to nearly 80 to 100 rupees per kg, and potatoes had gone up to nearly 60 to 70 rupees per kg. Immediately after assuming office, this government has brought them back under the Essential Commodities Act, and I'm sure that with this act, the state governments now have a weapon to fight the hoarders and the black marketers. Now nobody can store more than the prescribed quantity of these. When the Telugu Desam Party was in power between 1994 and 2004, our Chief Minister, Sri Nara Chandrababu Naidu Garu, introduced the concept of Raitu Bazaars, also known as farmers' markets. This allowed the farmers to sell directly to the consumer by removing the middlemen. I think it's time for the whole country to adopt this type of practice as well. I also wish to raise a major concern that is looming large in Andhra Pradesh, as it is perhaps in many parts of the country. The deficit southwest monsoon due to the El Nino is going to hit the kharif production severely and will result in food inflation if steps are not taken. The monsoon deficit in Andhra Pradesh is as much as 71% so far this year. The top 10 states, which contribute more than 80% of our food grain production, is facing a 45% deficit overall in rainfall. It will have a severe impact on food grain production. I request the government to immediately take up alternate arrangements to rein in the inflation, to stop hoarding and black marketing, to increase cold storage facilities to address future problems that this country is going to face. The constituency that I represent, Guntur district, we have a rich agriculture belt that produces rice, chili, tobacco, turmeric, cotton, maize, and all types of fruits, vegetables, and flowers. It's a very exciting area to be in, but the farmers are suffering mainly because of lack of proper storage facilities and lack of a cold chain. So the wastage is huge in this country that everybody knows. So I urge the government to please take this up on priority. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Jai Hind, Jai Telugu Desam.
మిగిలింది మాత్రం ఎందుకంటే ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్లోనే చాలా ఇబ్బందులు ఉన్నాయి. ఇబ్బందులు ఏంటో నేను కూడా ఇక్కడ ఫేస్ చేస్తున్నాను కాబట్టి వారసత్వంగా